Welcome back to Prop Culture Episode 4.
Oh, hello, welcome.
How are
S-
you doing today, Yes?
I'm actually having a little bit of a headache at the moment, but I took some painkillers and I'm ready to go.
Okay, so you're not a fan of espresso with lemon juice, I suppose?
What?
Yeah,
What?
that helps. You
Sounds
take a shot of
disgusting.
it is disgusting. You take a shot of espresso, mix in some fresh squeezed lemon juice, and you let it like cool down to the point where you can take it in one sip because it's really nasty. But the combination of caffeine and whatever it is in the lemon juice that really inhibits pain receptors, I guess you could call it, and it widens your veins in your brain, I guess, or
Okay.
yeah.
So if I just take a coffee and then eat a little tangerine, like that
No,
should
that's
do the
not the
trick
same.
too,
No,
right?
no. Tangerines are not lemons.
They 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 have the same. It's the
N
same. It's just
no.
good. It's just yummy. Okay.
Mm,
Anyways, let's get started talking about plants because that's why people are here. They
exactly.
don't
Well,
want to hear
lemons are
about my
plants.
headache.
Hello?
Spilling the plenty.
Okay, let's go. What do we start with?
I will start with the latest news.
Spilling the plenty.
So I have some information about Anthurium, of course. That's
Mhm.
my specialty. To me, it was a bit confusing. I don't know if you experience it too. You are also a collector of Anthurium. A lot of names popping up, new cultivar names, new species names. But some that I found particularly confusing were the names like Darkest Panama, Black Velvet Panama, and then the abbreviations floating around. And I thought it would be interesting that I just made some short information about what the names are, what they stand for, and yeah, to
Please.
give some more information there. So to make it a little more clear. So I took some information, and there's actually two plants that go around with the name Panama in there or Black Panama in there. So the first one is Black Velvet Eastern Panama. That's how it was introduced into trading in 2020. Has been abbreviated to BVEP quite quickly because that's just a very long name to pronounce. And that is actually the plant that has been described as a new species
Okay.
and is now called antolakii. So BVEP is the same as antolakii. It is a species. It has been described by Vanini and Croat, but as far as I know, it has not been published yet. So it's not official, but has already been described. So as the name we should call it. So Antolakii is a reference to a person that's also quite famous in the aroid world, Rory Antolak. He's an American, and he's a grower that focuses primarily on palm cycads and aroids. I think it was in California, but I'm not 100% sure anymore. So the species has been named in honor of Rory Antolak and is called Antolakii and has been collected in eastern Panama. So that's where the name
Was it
comes
collected
from.
by him?
It was collected by him, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Um, or at least brought to the US by him.
Mhm. Okay.
That's what I found. Then another plant that's going around with the name Panama in there is known as Darkest Panama. And that's a plant that has its origins in Indonesia by Indonesian growers. So it's a plant that had been going rounds between collectors and growers in Indonesia. It has been said that it was found growing in backyards of old collectors' houses in Indonesia, but it is formally a no ID plant. It could be a hybrid or an ecotype of Anthurium papillianum. It had been called Dresleri, Ace of Spades, just everything that looks a bit dark and round-leaved, but it is a no ID. So how did it get its name Darkest Panama? That's because, and that is linking it back to Anthurium antolakii. it looked like the black velvet Eastern Panama. And
Okay.
so it got its name Darkest Panama because it was even darker than that plant. But that it was causing a lot of confusion, of
It's
course.
confusing me right now. Like, I would
Well,
assume it came from Panama, and now you're telling us it's
yeah.
out of Indonesia.
Well, originally it's not from Indonesia because Anthurium are South American plants. So,
Right.
but they have been growing in Southeast Asia for a couple of 10 decades of years, of course,
Mhm.
by now. So, and then in October 2020, Cartel Down, the famous Indonesian grower and exporter of Anthurium, announced on their Instagram that they would give it a different name. I think they did some kind of polling also with their followers. And then they gave the new cultivar name Goliath to this no idea. So from now on, it is referred to as Anthurium Goliath. But
Okay, but I
to
know
be
of it.
clear, it's not a species. It's not. So it's highly likely that it's a Papillianum ecotype
Mhm.
variant or a hybrid with it. But it has some clear distinctions, so we can call it a cultivar, and that has been named Goliath. From what I found, there are these two different plants, one being a species, Anthurium antolakii, and the other being a cultivar, Anthurium Goliath,
Mhm.
that both are dark, velvet, round-leaved Anthurium, but they are quite different to each other.
Right.
So that was to clear up any confusion.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Um, so today's episode is a little bit under the overall topic of actually finding plants in the wild. And I came across something, I believe it was last week, a post on Instagram by the Oxford University, and it was a clip of these researchers out in the wild from the moment they discovered a plant that has never been described before. And it was quite emotional,
Mm.
which is the reason why it even caught my eye.
It,
But
it went viral, right?
it
The
went
video?
viral.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Dr. Chris Thorogood, whose Instagram handle is illustrating botanist from the Oxford University, was part of a team including a gentleman called Septian Andrikitat. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. And they found the Rafflesia hasseltii. Rafflesia hasseltii, which is basically it's part of a genus known for producing the largest individual flowers in the world, classified as a species in the genus Rafflesiae. Um, and it's a so-called holoparasitic plant, meaning that it lives entirely inside its host. It doesn't have any visible roots, stems, or leaves, and the only part that actually emerges is the flower bud,
Oh,
and that
cool.
thing looked straight out of a alien movie or something. Like, it's
Stranger Things.
insane.
Yeah.
So, found a bunch of information about the host plant and appearance and distribution. So it's native to the rainforest of Sumatra in Indonesia and the peninsular Malaysia, and it has a connection to the corpse flower. Corpse flower meaning the one that's stinky. Can't think of the name right now.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, it flowers every year in Belgium, and then it's like big news because everybody wants to go see it flower.
Right.
Um,
So it's kind of there's a connection to that. But the one that's most known would be the Rafflesia arnoldii, which carries the largest individual flower and also releases a foul and putrid odor. Ugh, like rotting flesh, I've been
so maybe they were
informed.
crying because of the stench and not because they just discovered it.
No, he was genuinely crying. Yeah, but what I found really touching was how that person on that Instagram reel reacted. And like you said, it went viral. Only to turn around, I learned yesterday, actually, that there's a whole lot of drama involved with this situation.
What? Drama in the plant world?
Yeah,
Spill the tea. Spill the tea.
spill the tea. So the governor of Jakarta actually demanded proper recognition, stating that Indonesian researchers Yoko Witono, Sapti Andriki, and Iswandi are not NPCs. meaning non-playable characters. Their names need to be mentioned too.
Mm.
So, like we said, the post was put up by the Oxford University and the Associated Doctor, and they kind of sidelined everybody who was involved for many, many years in discovering
Oh,
this plant.
that's not
And
okay.
I think that's really a shame to the researchers out in the field. Not cool, Oxford
Mm,
University, not cool. Give people the praise that they deserve, especially when we see how it touches them
yeah,
and how much of their life's work they've poured into finding these plants. So that's my bit.
it can get quite emotional during plant collection. I'm curious to see how Fraser experiences that
Yeah,
when finding new plants.
yeah. Would be sweet to see, I'm sure. We know that Fraser is very passionate about the work he does, and he, by the way, is going to be our interview guest today. If you haven't figured that out yet, so we're going to hear from a researcher himself who calls himself a plant hunter.
But before that, I have one more thing. Tanya, I actually don't know this about you. Are you a Christmas person?
That's a very personal question in my case.
Ah.
I used to love Christmas, the whole baking cookies and getting the
Mm,
house ready and everything. Christmas Day itself, I've never been a fan of. I don't like going to church, anything like that. But mm, I was a commercial Christmas lover just for, being with friends and family. But I've just grown really tired of it in recent years. Like, my ideal Christmas would be renting a hut somewhere in the snow or being on some tropical beach and just enjoying quiet time. But yeah, why
yeah,
do you ask?
for me, I always associate Christmas with kitsch. Like
Yeah.
I don't get how people can get so excited by kitsch ornaments every year. It's like they always lose some kind of inhibition, and now it's okay to like ugly things. And I'm sorry, that's an unpopular opinion, but to me, it's like, uh, but this is my segue into asking if I were to ask you, besides a Christmas tree, what kind of plants do you associate with Christmas
In my home or in general?
in general?
Um, well, the greens from certain trees to make a wreath. Well, I guess those weird looking, what are they called? Poinsettias or something like that with the gold glitter on it. Ooh.
Well, that's kitsch, and that is exactly what I was wanting to talk to you about.
Okay.
Um, Christmas poinsettias. Poinsettia. It's difficult to pronounce. Yay or nay? To me, it's mostly nay, but maybe after what I explained to you, you might change your opinion. So most people know the plants as green plants with very decorative, yeah,
Leaves.
red
Uh,
leaves. They are leaves. So I'm going to that's actually the first thing I was wanting to explain. So most people know that these colorful red leaves are actually bracts and not flower petals. But the Latin name of the plant is Euphorbia pulcherrima. It derived its English name from the first United States minister to Mexico. I had no idea about that, but his name was Joe Robert Poinsett, and he's credited with introducing the plant into the US in the 1820s. So that's why it got its popular name. But it's indigenous to Mexico and Central America. It was first described in 1834, so after Joe Roberts introduced it into the US. But it has been cultivated in greenhouses in South Carolina since the 1820s. What's funny to me is that the plant has very different local names in different languages. So in Dutch, which I speak, it's called kerstroos, which is a Christmas rose. But then in Turkey, for instance, it's called Ataturk çiçeği, which is an Ataturk flower. So it has nothing to do with that anymore. And then in Nahuatl, which is an Aztec language, it was literally called the excrement flower. Apparently, because birds would eat the seeds and then deposit their excrement, and then new plants would grow from them. And that's how they thought that
Okay.
that
So it
plant grew.
In Germany, they call it the Weihnachtsstern, which is the Christmas star,
Ah, okay.
which I think is very detrimental to the plant, and this is why that plant to me is a no-go. It's very seasonal, and then people just chuck it out,
Yeah, yeah.
and that is going back to that fast fashion in plants that we were talking about. Like, I can't with a good conscience.
By the way,
Mm-mm.
in Spain, it's called Flor de Pascua, meaning Easter flower.
Yeah.
So again, we associate with the Christmas not because of the plant itself, but by capitalism, American
Yeah.
capitalism.
Yeah.
Um, Actually, they became popular after they were introduced by a marketing campaign by the Ecke family. They were growers in North America in Los Angeles, and they started growing poinsettias. And actually, at some point, they began shipping free poinsettias to television stations to use on air during the Christmas time. They had really aggressive marketing campaigns, and so they made the association with Christmas, and that's how it became popular that way. It's still the most sold or the most economically important potted plant globally.
It's insane.
Each year, approximately 70 million plants are sold in a period of 6 weeks.
That's insane.
One of the reasons that might be valid for associating with Christmas is that the bracts they have, the colored bracts, they are created through photoperiodism, meaning that they require darkness. So they need at least 14 hours of darkness for a time of 6 to 8 weeks to get the colored bracts. So that's why they are more easily grown during wintertime, at least the way
Ah,
we like them.
okay. Well, see, the thing is, I guess a lot of people don't know how to keep these plants alive because you can keep them alive for longer
Hmm.
than just the Christmas season, right?
Hmm. I mean, one of the thing is also that usually in nature they grow quite laggy and quite like more tree-like or shrub-like, and the way they are grown to be sold in America is they graft them on different kind of species, not species, on different. Yeah, I don't know the specifics, but they use kind of techniques and add hormones for making them really bushy and really compact. And then once they grow in your house, they start getting laggy or and
Mhm.
they lose their attractiveness for sure. But the reason I wanted to share this with you is because I came across some uh, cultivars of the Poinsettia recently that was like, okay, maybe there are some cultivars that might change our feelings about this plant because the green red standard type it feels very old fashioned and kitschy. And some of the cultivars do look really different. So I wanted to share that with you and see how you felt with them after I shared them. So the first cultivar is called Freedom Peppermint. And if I were to describe it, it was like the bracts are like white, but there's a very fuchsia dust sprinkled on top of it. So are we liking this?
I mean, if you're into pink plants, I'm sure you would love this. It kind of reminds me of caladiums in the way that it's
Ah, yeah,
speckled,
yeah.
the colorfulness.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Cute.
Sure. Yeah, sure. The next one, country kilts.
Okay, now that is nice because it looks like a red Thai constellation. Like you have the red and then the cream speckles and splotches over the bracks.
I was
That
gonna
looks
say
nice.
this is really kitsch, but yeah, apparently.
Like I immediately see a Christmas version of a Thai constellation on
Okay,
there.
well, that's good. This one is called
Whoa.
Enduring Marble. I think I like this one best. It's like again like a fully white, but then the mid section is like blushing pink.
Reminds me of my pink Princess Hoya.
Oh yeah,
Like the way the variegation is spread.
yeah. But the leaves also look more like thick, more rubbery than the other cultivars, or
Yeah, and
might just
smaller,
be the picture.
obviously.
I have two
Ew.
more. Cinnamon Star, which is like a very fiery bright orange.
That's like I don't like all things Thanksgiving cinnamon spiced whatever, and this gives me Thanksgiving cinnamon spiced poinsettia.
Okay. And then finally, Freedom Marble looks a bit like the other one, but the pink is like most parts are pink, and then we have some white edging, yeah, on the edge.
It's okay, yeah.
That's okay. That's okay. So, any of the cultivars you take in house, not specifically for Christmas, but
No,
no, no,
too
okay.
kitschy. Too kitschy, and like I said, I don't like how they are grown, that whole fast fashion, and they take so many resources to grow. Okie dokie. Let us know in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube. Let us know if you have a Christmas star at home. All right. So I guess it's time for our interview.
Yes.
Right. And I've really been looking forward to this because he has some really interesting thoughts about the sourcing of plants and plant conservation, etc. So let's welcome to the podcast Fraser Cook, aka Botanical Otter. Okay, and now we have our second interview guest. Last week we had William Rotolante, and this week we are joined by Fraser Cook, who is all the way over in Indonesia, right, Fraser?
Correct. I'm all the way in Borneo.
Wow, we're not jealous. Okay, so
I
why
am.
are you in Borneo?
So where am I in Borneo? I'm in West Kalimantan and in a region called Kapuas, which is the start. It's the region which is the most inward. So which is the start of the Kapuas River. And the Kapuas River is the longest river in Indonesia. And it's just below the border of Malaysia from Sarawak. So you can kind of get an idea where I am.
Ooh, I know Sarawak. I had a
Mm.
Hoya Sarawak.
There's no such thing as Hoya Sarawak. Anyway,
I'm just saying, that's how the name is familiar to me.
yeah. Which
All
links
right.
things into provenance. Anyway,
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, how should plant people know you?
well, my socials is botanical otter, and I'm a current PhD student researcher, and I am focused on botany, conservation, and managing big expeditions across. Well, currently now in Borneo, Kalimantan, and then other places around Indonesia as well. And I look at not just the forest, but I look at the entire supply chain really from the start. So looking at where plant hunters take them from and where they don't take them from, do conservation assessments on that, and how many are taken to go into their local nurseries, and then asking them how many they sold for, how much they've taken, how much they've sold for, maybe meeting the resellers as well. So I look at the supply chain there. I'm not looking at the only market I look at is online markets. So I'm not looking at the sort of plant shows, stuff like that. I'm looking at the actual source of where this stuff is coming from.
Interesting. Well, what is the name referring to? Botanical otter.
Uh, well, otter is like a sub-tribe. I won't go much more into that.
Mm,
But I,
I get it.
yeah, but otter is something that I've always kind of resonated with, and I have an otter on my leg, actually, a tattoo that was done in Belgium, in Antwerp, and
Links
they are,
everywhere.
yeah, Antwerp is great for tattoos, but it is something that an animal that has learned to utilize its environment, particularly the ones that are famous are the sea otters that they get the shells. So they use tools. So I kind of resonate with that animal quite a lot. And then it's botanical. My original name was swimming pool otter because I used to swim a lot. And then when I transitioned to the kind of working in horticulture, I wanted a name that kind of resonated with I guess, my branding at the time. And now it's just a name that I just like to keep, I guess.
When did you switch into botany?
I was doing my horticultural diploma, and I started that course with a very open mind because I had a background in fine art and I did a master's in anthropology. And I just went in with a very open mind, but I knew I liked the aesthetics and maybe interested in more kind of design elements. How wrong I was. So I just got really into like the first modules were like on botany, and I just got really into like it all, like, and how plants grow in the kind of glass environments, The other parts of horticulture and my garden design became really less interesting for me, and I got more interested in pest disease. I got really interested in the care, and then I did do some kind of gardening work, but it's very it's a very hard industry to do because it's not very well paid in the UK, and I'd already kind of thought about doing a PhD before, and I reached out to someone because I was doing my started to do some analysis on where these plants are coming from, and there was big plant influencers talking about like we don't know where these plants are coming from, we don't know about poaching, and I knew that wasn't true because of all my kind of background in anthropology and colonial legacies and like indigenous people and like and at the same time there was kind of plant hunters following me online, and there was people in Indonesia and talking about hoys of me. So I was putting these dots together, and then that's kind of where it all started, really. I came here to do like a field trip, a reconnaissance, and I guess
Mhm.
that's where it all kind of started to cement, really. It was, yeah, that's where it all started. I realized there was kind of gap in this area and I wanted to pursue it more. And I just love where plants kind of emerge from in a forest. I love that more than the actual end output of horticulture, I think.
I think it's interesting, like, the some of the words you mentioned, indigenous people, and there was another word you said that I would never on the surface level, I would never put that into connection with plant collecting. So I think it's really interesting to have you here today because I think that will broaden our field of vision, if you want to put it, when we talk about plant collecting.
Definitely.
Mm.
So, how does a day in the life look like for you?
Oh, right now it's pretty exhausting. I've been doing like a back-to-back expeditions at the moment to kind of finalize my area here. But there are some days I literally work from a I don't know if you've seen my video where I'm not talking about like welcome to my home, like the cribs from the MTV to early 2000s, or like the
Mhm.
simple life of Harris Hilton. I mean, it's literally like that. I mean, it's like a hardwood house and like made out of like local wood. That's the Dictocars family, the Dictocars family. And like I can spend some time in there, like taking notes on the field, like doing some like lab checking soil samples, and then I could be meeting local people, talking about like the habitats, meeting plant hunters, where they get plants from. And then I could spend like a whole day like trekking into forests and or walking through plantations in the wild, like the heat. Like today we were out because plans have to change sometimes as well. But like there's police on the road and we can't go down there. So like today I decided we're going to go east again, and then I was avoiding like the road we couldn't the road was supposed to be a new road, but that hasn't been finished or never going to be finished. So the car we had couldn't
Mhm.
go up. It was really steep and there was loads of rock pebbles everywhere and it wasn't going to climb. So so we were going to walk. We walked up and then we entered one of the river channels through, and we just kind of trekked through like with my boots, and they've got slippers or flip flops on, and walking through like underneath trees, up over trees again, up through the sandbanks, checking the species, what's there, hearing the wildlife and stuff like that. I'm making notes, checking GPS coordinates. The plant hunters ahead, like looking at other things as well. So I'm in my mind managing a lot of different observations at once, right? And then I'm like directing like my plant hunter as well, like my local person, like we look for this and hear what he's saying as well, and translating like local words as well. So and then me translating what I need back as well. So and I'm working like 30-degree heat, like above
Ugh.
85% like humidity as well. So yeah, and then there are moments when I get to see some amazing things like these big massive trees, and then I'm like, wow, and I'm going wow, 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 and my local person just doesn't care as much as I do. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and there's a lot of that. I'm slow. I'm taking notes and stuff like that, and like hacking through like rotan stuff like that. Like yeah, and getting bitten, all the stuff like that is yeah. And then coming back feeling exhausted and doing notes. So that is my life essentially.
I mean,
What do
it's a cool job title, being a plant hunter.
I was
Um,
just about to ask, what is that? Like, what does a plant hunter do?
Um, well, I have to define this because when I first started using it, I got a bit of criticism from my colleagues because it's linked with colonialism, and if I think you might have read my article about this. Um, so Plant hunters in this context is absolutely right. That is what they call themselves. But these are people who are the ones who are taking the plants from the forest and the ones that are like selling them on the market, right? And
Okay.
that could be not for much money, like 50 cents or 50 euros or less. But I call myself a plant hunter as well because I'm going out there and like looking at them, looking at where these plants are, maybe taking some because they might be new species, but also looking at how the conservation of them and like if they're the habitat threats or how they've been taken. I think that's more like a sustainable way of looking at it, and the sustainable way of looking, conservation way of looking at plant hunting. And then there's a reality on the ground what local people have to do to make ends meet because they're not on much money and they rely on like subsistence farming. But at the same time, I fully recognize that plant hunters historically have been linked with colonialism and like extracting knowledge and extracting local information, and it still exists today. Unfortunately, there are many people, researchers still doing the same thing. And so I use plant hunting in a context in my research, but I kind of really, I'm trying to reflip that narrative rather than something that's extractive to something that can be used as a tool for stewardship and sustainability. So that's how I define it.
Okay. So tying into that, I guess, looking back, and we've already briefly touched upon the role of influencers in the
Mm.
plant collecting community. How did you experience the surge in plant collecting during the pandemic, and has that at all affected your work as a botanist?
I think for me, I've taught. I can't claim that I used the term myself, but it was what we call, flexing. When social media flexing, when you flex your
Hmm.
wealth.
Hmm.
That was when I felt really uncomfortable with it because I call it plant flexing. And the analogy I give is where like they always have they have the typical kind of expensive t-shirt on or like black basic t-shirt on, but there's something about them even that looks a bit rich as well. And they're like, I spent 10,000 on this and 2,000, 3,000 on this plant. And they're kind of showcasing on social media. And it's always rare. It's always a plant that you must have. It's really difficult to get, right? And I just
Hmm.
thought that makes me feel a bit uncomfortable. Like, why are you doing that? And then when you had influencers at the same time, and still to this day saying things like, we don't know if these plants are being poached. I'm like, I know that that's not true. And I know that from colonial legacies as well. And that's also backed up by research. We know how to check if plants are being poached or not. There are mechanisms in place for that. For me, it just kind of it impacts my work quite a lot because, for example, when I posted about a species that I've been working on, Hoy biruensis, and I have to submit that report, already one person has said, "What? But if the tree has already gone, why would you want to put it back?" Something like this.
Hmm.
And the thing about it, it creates this perception in the market that the influencers or even the institutions are all part of the same thing, can create this kind of trend what we call salvaging. And it means that people might feel that they're doing a good thing by taking these plants or buying plants from the wild or being not understanding where it's from because they just have this perception. The forests are all being cut down. The local people can't look after these plants and they'll be better in a Western hand. And I feel with some influencers at that time and now, they're still doing that conversation or they're not fact checking things. And I have found some influencers read, they're just not fact checking. So that for me, it does impact what I do as a botanist. It changes it, the narrative is not correct. And I just wish they would reach out to more botanists or conservation people and ask them for like interviews or talk to them more because I feel like they would learn so much more.
With this whole collecting, like at that scale, with the rare plants and showing it off, and this whole narrative about the plants being better off in the West and all of that, it kind of reminds me of um, a lot of zoos.
Oh yeah.
Like, I have three children, so I've been to, before I knew better, I've visited many zoos. One of my kid, actually, for one of his summer vacations, he was like, I don't know, 6 or 7. He said he wanted to tour all the zoos in Europe. And so we did visit quite a few. And it was actually on that trip that and I have no idea about wildlife, but that was the first time I thought to myself, this cannot be about conservation. Or look at the penguins at Sea Life in London, right? No, this is not about conservation. This is about showing off. This is about exerting power over profit, in a way that I find really disgusting
Mm.
at times. Mm, And I think it's the same with plants, you know. Sure, they don't need, well, yeah, they do need food, but obviously plants are not animals. But to me, it's like the same concept. It's like
Yeah.
the fake zoo wanting to play, conservation. But at
Oh,
the
it's
end
like
of the day, it's just about selling tickets.
the target of the plant world. Um,
Yeah.
there's two examples. There's two examples that really I always. Well, there's actually no. The one example really hits home. I remember it. It was one of those makeup influencers from Philippines. His friend, or was he? I can't remember. Like, or Brett Rock. I mean, I think it's Brett Rockman. And he was going around his doing like welcome to my house and doing the plants show tour, right? And he just looked over, oh, there's plants extinct in the wild and it cost me this amount of money, and then just walked away. That really rattled me. It was, for me, that's a prime example of plant flexing. Like, to
Uh-huh.
me, it's like, I don't really care. I've got something you don't have. And like, for
Right.
me, that underscores a lot of the problems I think is, you talk about the zoos, isn't it? Like, I think it's the same kind of thing. I've seen a tiger kind of thing. It's, to me, that is the same issue I see, for sure. And another recent example would be, okay, now I have to distinguish between institutions and scientists on the ground, and I do know I've read publications where a lot of scientists do acknowledge local people,
Mhm.
but the institutions kind of remove them sometimes. So there was one with this underground palm nut in Borneo that's known in 5 different Malay languages. In the paper, it said that, but the institution said the scientists had discovered it, even though the scientists said they never discovered it. So that gets fed into the plant trade quite well. And you see that kind of mirroring or a feedback loop in the same kind of way, where you do see that same kind of trope playing out. There was another botanist. I haven't read his paper, and I don't think he would have wrote this himself, but the same institution, Kew Gardens, wrote that he had salvaged them from South America.
Mhm.
Like, salvaging them from who? Like,
Yeah.
to me, that is extractive colonialism. And I'm a massive supporter of developing in situ conservation more. And there's many people, like, even IUCN, which is the people that did the red list. Like, there's a move to like do this kind of work more, because the ex situ conversation, like you're talking about zoos, has proven not to work. Like, there's more push to do corridors and environmental corridors for natural lions to move around and that kind of thing, or tigers and elephants, stuff like that. You can do the same thing with plants, but I just
Uh-huh.
feel we haven't got there with the same discussion, because I totally understand that forests have been knocked down and there's a lot of land changes, and I know this from palm oil, and I see it. I've gone there. I've seen it happening more and more. But but there's also the thing. If you read some papers like of some they're more like rants from another botanist talking about like the carnivorous plants. Like, people think that these plants are like not safe. They're actually in conservation areas. So how are they not safe? They already are safe. So
Mhm.
it's that kind of narrative that still there's people in the plant trade and the collector trade that kind of, as you say, they feel that, yeah, that we need to protect these plants. Why do you need to protect these plants?
Yeah.
Like, why
Yeah.
do you, like? And I think, yeah, the same kind of thing. Yeah.
I have another question. What's a plant genus or species you think is underrated? And then I'm mostly referring to plant collecting. So
Yeah.
in like the commercial kind of type, and which do you think are overrated at the moment?
Underrated.
So
Oh.
many.
I'm not going to say the obvious thing. No, no, definitely. I would say that the thing that's underrated probably is, okay, I've started with overrated first. I think I have to say I do think anthuriums are really overrated. Because
No.
no, no, the reason why is because I know a lot of the breeders and in Indonesia, and there's a lot of the similar hybrid design going on, and I do think there's a bit
Yeah.
much. I think there's a lot of saturation in the market.
Yeah. Definitely.
And I feel like we need more registration. I feel like what would be better is if we had a lot more plants registered, we have a lot more kind of gold standard stuff like that. I think that would improve it. That's why I mean it's over it because it's oversaturated, and I feel that's a big problem. And I've gone, and it's like, yeah, I think that's, and everyone's trying to get the most expensive anthurium, and it's crazy. That's what I see a lot of. I think the plants that are underrated. Oh, I think Scindapsus. Like, I have to say, like, if I look at an ornamental plant that I love to see in the wild, and it always, I'm like, oh, it's different. It's a Scindapsus. Look at the color. I think it's also really a beautiful plant to have in your home in a hanging basket. If you can get it right, it can have really big leaves, and it just looks really decorative. I think it's, it's a love, and you can moss pole it as well, and you can get it to, and in the wild they'll spread out, and they might have the fenestrations. I think, and there are some variegated varieties are out there. I just think it's a little bit underrated as a plant. I think it just gets put in that pothos pile, but it's not a pothos. But yeah, I think it's an underrated plant.
So to ask differently, if you could dream, what kind of plant genus could be named after you when described, and what would the name be? Like Fraseri cookie, Fraser cookie?
Oh, I had this conversation today. Like,
Ah,
it wouldn't be a genus, it would be a species. No, I
yeah,
think
yeah.
there's already Fraser eyes, so I can't have that. It might have to be cookie. But if you want something that I was discussing this today about, I'm really a big fan of local knowledge and local names, and I always ask them like, "What do you want to name after?" So there's a word that we use in Kalimantan, which is a bang, which means brother, and it's like I get called a bang, and because I'm part of the community, not Mister or Bule, I get called a bang or by the kids. And I would like to call a species Bangensis, because that would mean that the people that were working on that plant's discovery, we came together as brothers, and that's what we'd found it. And to me, that is more important for me right now than getting a species named after me.
Okay,
Yeah.
not me getting wet eyeballs. My eyeballs are sweating.
I'd love a plant named after me, of course, but I would have to have an agreement with local people,
Of course.
because yeah, I would love a hybrid named after me. That wouldn't feel so bad.
No, that I can do. That's easy.
Yeah, I think that would be nice. I think, well, actually, my name is means strawberry, and well, my name is Strawberry, so Phrasey would sound better. I get called Phrase in Arabic circles, so Phrasey, maybe like maybe Phrasey I or something like that might sound better.
I'm gonna have to go back.
Yeah.
Because this obviously, I know quite a number of influencers,
Hmm.
that I talk to on a fairly regular basis.
So do I.
And I'm not for or against plant flit. Well, yeah, there's pros and cons to it, obviously. But this whole plant collecting, as it were, I'm going to call it the COVID generation of plant parents. To sum it up, do you think that plant collecting can be beneficial to plant conservation at all by
Well, it has.
non-botanists? Yep.
Well, it has to be, because gardening can be as well. Like, I think in the
Right.
gardening world where people do like beekeep, like I was a big fan of that as well. Like in my gardens in the UK, like put native species in, and like building like, you know, hedgehogs, and, like for bees and like pollinators. We can be. I just think there needs to be a little bit more awareness, and I feel like hopefully I do that well. I think for me, I think the as I think people are obsessed with where plants come from, the provenance thing, like SP Borneo, SP Sarawak, and etc., and like SP Peru. And I'm doing a little bit of research. I've been doing research on that for a long time. And with the paper I'm working on now, which is 1 year's e-commerce, I am able to track where the attributes of provenance and other things are put on by sellers, and most of them are done by the reseller and not the actual source people. I feel that if through my research and with other work other people can do, I think if we discuss where these plants come from more, what they mean to people's culture as well, but also the fact that we remove these perceptions from people that actually you're not taking a plant from a deforested area, so it's not, there is a problem,
Mhm.
or just like getting people to do some fact checking as well. There are a lot of green flags you can do. Like, for example, if you see SB something, then Google it. Google where that place is. And if you're worried it's from a conservation, it's near a conservation area, then don't get it. Like,
Right.
that's it. Like, I think there's things that we can do in the collectors field that makes us just more aware and heightened about actually where these plants come from. And also the other thing is around benefit sharing, which I'm working on as well, which is getting the plant hunters to actually get a much better benefit share of what they're being sold, and rather than them losing so much profit to
Mhm.
downstream activities. So yeah.
It's kind of like the banana growers, no?
Yeah, it's the same with rooibos tea. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of I can't pronounce it properly. Acai berry, which is the superfood.
Oh, yeah.
That's a real good example of like how that can work as a product. Coffee is another one example. Fair trade principles and stuff
Yes,
like that. I do think we can go down that line, but I also think that the gardening world can go beyond sustainability. Just looking at, I'm not having peat free or I'm using plastic. Sustainability is way beyond just that.
of course. That would be an interesting concept, though, to get ornamental plants into the fair trade system.
That's my hope. That's what I'm going to try and work on. It
Well,
is,
and in the meantime, we can try to grow plant provenance.
yeah,
Looks like we need to get access to the plant hunters.
yeah. I
No,
mean, like,
honestly, I mean, that's like
I'm, I mean,
source
sorry, but
to.
I keep hearing demon hunters when you say plant hunters,
no,
but I guess
I
it's
think
just me.
I think for me, you can read it through my research. I think, and other people's research. I think that access is a little bit, it's a little bit more. It's an ethical issue there as well, and what's
Mhm.
going on. And I hope with the work I'm doing as well, that like building some nurseries that are sourcing the plants directly, and a lot of them don't know about propagation or hybridization as well. I do know some really great resellers who buy one plant and then they propagate it up. So I think I'm going to try and develop that more in Indonesia and then hopefully expand it other ways. The other thing I want to apply for is forest stewards at council to actually demonstrate that the plants that are coming from steward forests that are all sustainable as well. And then
What
I think
forest?
it's called Forest Stewardship Council. It means,
Stewardship. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, if you buy coffee,
Mhm.
right, that has fair trade. And also sometimes it will say the coffee's from like steward, like sustainable forests as well. Because
Mhm.
some coffee grows in forests as well. So I do think I want to turn some ornamental plants into premium products, a bit like organic stuff.
Mhm.
Because I do think people will pay a premium for it if they know they're actually helping communities and the environment.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
You talked about your Indonesian colleagues a while
Mm.
ago, and also about local Indonesian people that call you abang, was it? I
Yeah.
think here in Europe, and I don't know, in the USA, a lot of people that are in plant collecting often have less good experiences with Indonesian growers and sellers. They have a bad reputation. What is your opinion about that?
Ooh. I mean, I don't think it's just Indonesia though, is it? I think it's quite widespread in other parts of the world as well.
I
Yeah,
agree, but specifically, Indonesian sellers just have a
a
bad
bad rep.
reputation in
Are,
plant collecting.
are you talking about aeroids or talking about wider plants?
Yeah, I'm talking about aeroids.
Yeah, there is a new society called the Indonesian Aero Society, so I'm hope that they'll make some improvements there. And I hope they recognise that bad reputation. I don't necessarily know what's happening on the ground. I think the issue with Indonesia is that there just isn't really the same kind of standard driven culture here for that, I don't think, at the moment. And I do work with the university and they have a whole horticulture department. I think things are shifting and changing very slowly,
Mhm.
but I think the standards need to be risen a lot. And I think there needs to be, and when I speak to the plant hunters or the growers in the rural areas, their knowledge of international things like quality control is just not what I'd expect. It's and I, if you're shipping to another country, I think there should be like a standard you should be applying to that plant. Especially if you're doing like massive like stocks to like Netherlands, stuff like that. So yeah, I would agree with you that there's a long way to go.
I'm gonna have to add on to that, and this is just my observation as a business person. I'm gonna assume that these Indonesian sellers that get a bad rep, that probably more times than not, they're awesome people. They grow beautiful plants. They probably have a love for what they do. But I'm gonna assume they never left the country, right? So while they're
Yeah.
facing global demand, they have no knowledge of
Yeah.
what the global customer looks like,
Yeah.
what they have to do to actually serve them, because I think it's probably a lot easier to acclimate certain cuttings or whatever there, right? As
Mm.
opposed to sending it to Germany or the UK or the US, where even the environmental factors are completely different.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you have consumers who have never been in Indonesia or Southeast Asia. They have no idea about the climate, etc.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, and then there's this whole idea about scamming and whatnot, but I would
Mm.
put that down to the standards that are lacking.
Mm.
But that's not malice, I don't think. I really think it's just a lack of knowledge, like ignorance in the best sense of the word.
Mm.
But there's also
Yeah.
really a big difference between like established companies in Indonesia, people that are really professionally growing
Yeah.
plants, like Cartel Down, like Eddie Pranoto, for instance.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have like if you start like a plant centered Instagram now, you'll get contacted by dozen sellers within a day from Indonesia,
Mm,
and it feels like every person with a garden in Indonesia is growing arrowheads. It really
they
feels like that.
probably are. They
Yeah, and
probably
so
are.
yeah, so they're just very small entrepreneurs that completely different to like companies that are really focused on growing a company and selling plants. So
Yeah.
there's two different things there.
For sure, I know them. I think it was worse during the pandemic, I think, and now I think it's calmed down. And I do know the people you're talking about as well. I think that, yeah, there are people in rural areas who can maybe access the market. By the way, this is a problem domestically as well. I do know that plant people who sell domestically have the same bad reps as well. So it's not, it's also that, like, we have online shops here and there's a lot of issues with like shipping and stuff like that. For example, I had plants that there were like new plants, basically, potentially no ID plants. They got stuck in an airport because there was flooding and a lot of them perished. Like, there's a lot of problems with quality control internally as well in the country. So it's a big issue for infrastructure as well. And I would also add that there's a little bit of bad mouthing across the region, like in terms of like I've heard like Thailand sellers like moaning about Indonesians. So I think that maybe that bad rep kind of sometimes can also inflame
Fabricated.
it a little bit more as well. So yeah, but I think you point out good. I think there are some really good reputable sellers in Indonesia, and I'm happy at any time on my social media to give advice if anyone wants to say, "Do you know about this seller?" And I can always say yes or no, and I can recommend them if I can.
Ooh, you're gonna have so many new followers, Fraser.
I don't mind. I do it for Hoyas enough, but yeah, I recommend aeroid people all the time. So yeah, it's fine.
I think we should slowly think about wrapping this up, and I'd like to end on something that's a bit more lighthearted. Obviously, you're traveling and you're traveling a lot.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you don't have an active plant collection with you. So, in an alternative world in which you had an office job, what kind of plants would you yourself be collecting and growing right now in your apartment?
Okay, so the only plants I collect are new specimens. But what I would like to do once I'm a little bit more settled again is establish. I have my gardens again in the tropics, and I would really like to go back to growing some ornamental garden plants again. Like, really miss flowers. Like, I haven't tried dahlias here, but I would like to try dahlias. I like to grow some of these orchids that I've been kind of working on at Phalaenopsis as well. I'd like to grow anthuriums. I know I said it before, but like I'd like, yeah, I have a Monstera, Thai Constellation, and Variegated. I'd like to have that a bit more established as well. So sure, yeah, yeah,
You
I'd
keep
like
on
to kind
talking
of.
about a garden. You wouldn't collect indoors?
I think in Indonesia you don't really need indoor plants
Oh,
because
you
they're
actually live
tropical.
there?
Huh?
You actually live in Indonesia?
Yeah, I do have a permit to live here.
Oh, okay. I thought you're just there for your excursions and then you're gonna go
No,
back to the
I
UK.
have like a house in Bulgaria as well. So this is kind of like, yeah, but for the future, for sure, for sure.
Mhm.
Like when I'm not traveling around the place and I have a settled home, like I would rather stay in the tropics, I think, because I feel like having a garden, I like to have a little bit of a homestead as well, like have fruit garden as well. But there's all
Mm.
these different types of like cactus that grow different like these kind of flowers as well. I can't name anything, but Nepenthes would be one of the things I would like to maybe grow indoors a little bit. Yeah.
I think Yos would have the last question.
Yeah, I do have one more question, and we asked the same question to Bill last week. So I'm really interesting to know your response because I did not expect his answer. The question is that if you could choose to live in any time period, future or past, what would you choose related to growing and collecting plants?
Wow. I mean, I'm going to be a little, I mean,
Maybe
Close.
to add what Bill said last week, he said he would prefer the 70s because there were less restrictions, and so he could do what he wanted to grow the plants.
oh,
So I did
I,
not expect that.
I mean, I could do the obvious for that, go for the future because we're going to be more eco-punk. No, that's just like, that's utopian at the moment. Let's not think about that. You know what? My cat's named after Alfred Russel Wallace, right? He was a explorer that went across a Malayan archipelago, and I definitely would love to be in a time period like him and follow him around because just discover all these new plants at the same time as him, I think would be really cool. I don't know what century that was, but the really old-fashioned explorer's time would be with someone like him who I really
Mhm,
respect. I think, yeah, like when people are really discovering these plants, these new ones, and meeting indigenous people, and maybe being a different voice for that the time rather than being like a colonialist. Yeah,
mhm.
that would be my answer.
It's interesting to see how people respond. Um,
Yeah, I'm not
to
surprised
me,
by
the
Bill's response.
idea,
Less restrictions.
but to live in an era where like exploring the world and discovering new plants was highly praised and valued in the society, that sounds amazing to me.
My other obvious answer would actually be the future. Me working on these projects and having like plants like fruit trees growing with orchids and selling them, and that's my goal and that's my dream. So, and that's what the local people want as well. So I guess that would be the other obvious answer.
I see that happening for you.
Yeah, I made a joke to my friend as like the mountain Del Monte with like going through his like plantations. And it's like that's not going to happen. I think it might in my 60s with like grey beard and like well,
Oh my God. All right. Well, Fraser, thank you so much for your time. And
thank you.
I do hope we can welcome you back and maybe do a deep dive on one of the subject we touched upon.
Yeah.
I keep on going back to the indigenous people and the colonialism, that whole part of our hobbies industry history, sorry. Uh, I do find that really interesting. And whatever else you find that the common plant collector should know. Not common plants, but common collector of plants should know.
The enthusiastic collector who has a specific interest in a specific genre, I think that is
Yes. Yeah,
a long
okay,
word,
let's put it
long
like
word.
that.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, and good luck with your PhD, thesis, I guess? No, what is it?
It is
PhD?
PhD and future projects. Yeah, that's right.
Right, okay. Good. So we'll hear back from you, and if not here on the podcast, then for sure on the IAS website, because Fraser and I are working on some materials for the IAS members. And we didn't even mention that, right? We're both on the education committee. So we're trying to ramp that up a bit and get more knowledge out there.
Yes, we are.
Goody.
And we're manifesting visiting you in Indonesia in your garden and
Oh,
sipping
yeah.
some local
I'll bring some fair
herb.
trade coffee and fair trade chocolate.
Yeah, and I hope like yeah, and maybe after the one of these like the paper because I'm working on two papers and they both will have some time with provenance. Yeah, maybe we can do a follow up then as well. Yeah,
Sounds good.
yeah.
Thank you so much, Fraser.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Well, that was a really interesting interview, wasn't it?
It was too short, Tanya.
He'll be back. Right. So let's wrap today's show up with our final segment.
Rate that weird plant. It's my favorite.
Weird plants, weird plants. Everybody loves weird plants.
Yay! Let's get into it. So this week I picked the plants and you get to rate them.
I'm a bit scared. But I don't have any scored yet, so I can.
Yeah, you're totally free. I
Yep.
promise I went easy on you
Oh, okay.
because,
I
we
want
need to
weird
build
plants.
momentum over the
Okay.
episodes.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay, let's start with the first one. Did I put these in any particular order? Let me check. No, not really. Okay. So, but we've got a good variety. We're going to start off with a Hoya. Hoya. Oh, Hoya. Hoya. If you have a look at this one, I know it's not super rare, and Hoya collectors will probably roll their eyeballs because I would think most Hoya collectors know this one. But yeah, why don't you share what you see?
I have never seen anything like it. Um, if I were to describe, I see the leaves look quite plain for a Hoya, but then I see two flowers or inflorescences, and they kind of look like a scepter, a royal scepter,
Hmm.
but then like in a circle, white. It's hard to describe. Um, do these open or they stay like that? It's really cool.
I would think for the purpose of pollinating, they would open,
Hmm.
but like that would probably be the last stage of the flower. I might be totally wrong. So we're looking at a Hoya decipulae, which is endemic to West Lampung in Sumatra, Indonesia. It's from a protected forest. It was discovered in a mixed hill forest on July 16th, 2017. So it hasn't been circulating for too long, and it grows on bamboo plants at about 800, well, not quite 800 meters in elevation, and it gets its name from the Latin word depi- decipula, which means to catch, ensnare, and trap or beguile. And right before it fully opens, it resembles a trap or a cage. And
Ah, yeah.
I think
Yep.
that's just gorgeous. Of course, we're going to share the actual images with you in the show notes.
It's definitely weird, but I'm just not sure whether should use high weirdness for plants that look scary or ugly
Is
because
it
it's
ugly?
no. So that's why I would rate it
Okay.
low because it looks pretty. It looks weird in the way that I have never seen it, but it doesn't look weird in the way that I would not imagine a plant like that existing. So I'm gonna rate it 4.
4. Okay. Well, to me, it looks like a Christmas Hoya because it has baubles. Like these spheres remind me of baubles. But yeah, that's just me. 4. Okay. Let's move on to the next one. Totally different species. We've definitely never touched upon it. And I have had it, and I think many people with aquariums will have had this, but it's a fascinating plant. Let's have a look at the images.
Ah, yeah. I have seen that one before.
What do you see?
Um, so it's like I'm failing to find the English words. Like a sea moss? No, like
Algae
algae. Yeah, so like an algae, but
or
it
kelp?
or kelp, but it's like a 3D printer would have printed it and left some holes in it. You
Okay.
know,
Yeah.
like if there's some like paper that you need to rip and it has these holes that where you're supposed to rip them, but then
Perforated.
but yeah, perforated, but
Perforations.
then over the entire plant.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I saw it and I was gobsmacked. I thought it
Mm.
looked so beautiful, but
It's
also
very
so unpractical. Like, how were you to? Yeah.
Yeah, so I had this in my aquarium with my
Oh, you had it.
I did have it. Um what are they called? Kampffisch in German? The ones that you have to keep single. I had a beautiful escaped aquarium that my son set up for me with driftwood and everything, and this was one of the plants he put in it. The common name is lace leaf, and we understand why. The botanical name or the actual name is a Aponogeton madagascarensis.
Again. Madagascar.
again.
It's always the weird
Yes.
plants.
And it was actually a submission by one of our listeners last week, so
Oh,
thank you,
cool.
Kevin, for that. I think it's gorgeous. When you have the filters running and it just sways in the water. It's a very gorgeous plant, and I know that my fish loved it.
It looks
Yeah.
like it's so brittle, like if you touch it,
It's
it
not.
falls
It's
apart.
not.
Okay.
It's absolutely not, and it was really one of the easier plants to take care of in the aquarium. But that's probably because the aquarium was relatively warm for my little fishy, because I also had shrimp in there. But yeah, it's a beautiful plant. What are you gonna give it on the weirdness scale?
6.
Okay, I like that. Good, then let's go on to the last one, which is I will say this, it's an orchid, but tell us what you see.
Are you sure? It looks like Nepenthes.
Mm-mm.
It looks exactly like Nepenthes, but I also see what you want me to see. Um,
What is that?
and do we need to keep this PR rated? I don't
No.
know. Uh, well, there's part of the, I'm gonna guess, inflorescence that looks very penile shaped.
Yeah.
Um, and then the rest of it has like leopard spots on it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure at what angle I'm looking here. Like, is this a side view of the?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's an orchid, as I already mentioned. It's a Corianthus. So it has the thes in there, like the Nepanthes. I'm not entirely sure what the exact species is of the one that I showed you, but within that genus, there are 30 species. So there's like 30 different kinds of these. The flowers look very different
Ooh.
from the Phalaenopsis that we know and like the white ghost and all of that. It looks really different. It does have the common name is bucket orchid.
I mean, I
So,
just found another picture, maybe of
mhm.
another species. It looks so cool. They look like swans
Yeah,
from the
they
side.
basically have a
Look.
big bucket. I suppose they collect their nectar in
Oh,
there
they're so
for
pretty.
pollination. Yeah. They are. They really do look
Hmm.
different.
To me, it's difficult to rate an orchid as weird because every orchid is weird. There's so many variations in orchids. It doesn't look weird. It looks like an orchid.
It's mean. But yeah, I
No, it's
get
not
your point.
mean. I mean, it looks beautiful. No, to me, it's not weird. The picture you chose is quite weird though. It's a weird angle.
There's if you can look it up, there's a Coryanthes macrantha with a TH. It's a Brazilian orchid.
Mm-hmm.
That one looks really weird too because it has
Uh,
like this ombre from
oh
red to
yeah,
yellow.
it's like a bug.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, oh,
I think those look really
oh. This
weird.
one is cool too. Okay, now I want one. Wait, I'll add a picture that's definitely weird.
Okay.
Okay, the weirdness scale has just increased.
Yes.
You see it?
It looks like some weird bug had a baby with a mushroom or something. I don't
That's
know.
no, that's weird. That's 7 weird.
7 weird? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys better check out the show notes for the links to these because they do look weird. Orchids might be one of those genera that might persuade me, even though I really love my aroids,
Yeah.
but
It's not even a genus, it's a family.
a family, I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah,
I
I'm
mean, we
sorry.
have to be correct here. We're a plant podcast.
Of course, of course. My brain is just all consumed by these penile-shaped
Imagine my brain
bucket
high on
orchids.
painkillers.
Oh my gosh.
No, I
All
feel
right.
better. I feel better now.
Yeah, see?
Yeah,
Just thinking about the espresso with lemon made you
yeah,
feel better.
perfect.
All right. Guys, I think that was it for today. Hope you enjoyed the interview with Fraser and yeah, check out the drama with the Oxford University. They really should be held to a higher standard when it comes to recognizing the people involved in discovering completely new plants, right?
Right. See you next week.
See ya.
Bye bye.
Pop culture.